Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and welcome to this beneficial video. Today I'm going to be talking about Animal Farm. The first time you always hear Animal Farm comes to your mind that it is an allegory, but some of you really do not know what does an allegory mean. So, allegory is an extended metaphor. So, what I want to say is that all animals from the story symbolize things from similar real life situations. So those animals, what I mean is that all animals in the Animal Farm, they symbolize people in real life and characters in real life, but the writer couldn't say that those are those people and he couldn't mention their real names for some reasons. George Orwell. George Orwell is the writer of Animal Farm, and in fact, I won't talk much about him, but he was a writer, he was a journalist, he was a soldier, he was a teacher, so he was really a great person. George Orwell was concerned about social injustice and mistreatment of low classes. So he used to go to see people, to see their situation, how they're living, and he was concerned a lot about people who were in the low classes. So, is this picture tells you about something? Well, yep. This hand is the governors who control the people and everything, whether it was by media, whether it was by economic, by lots of ways. And people, in fact, they are just like animals. They follow their governors. Some of them, yes, know what's the truth and what's not, but some of them they don't really speak. They know the truth, but they don't speak. Which leads us to this definition, which is totalitarianism. Alright, thank God, I pronounced it right. Anyways, this definition means that the governors can control the people like animals, whether it was in economic, politics, science, education, religious, and culture. They use many ways to control the people. So, let's go to Russia. What does this have to do with Russia? In fact, in Russia, we had someone called Nicholas II, which is this guy. Hello, Nicholas. Now, Nicholas II, he was the governor, and people at the time really struggled. Some of them died from disease. They really didn't have money between their hands. They were kind of lots of poverty. All the money goes in the rich class and the governors and so on. So, I think I would predict that there was no middle class at that time. After that, we had the suffering of course, the world wars and so on, and we have something called the revolution. Some of people made revolutions, which was in fact led by someone called Lenin, and this established something called Union Soviet Socialist Republic in Russia. Union Soviet Socialist Republic, which makes Russia the first communist state in the world. Communist state. Communist. So what is communism? Communism is a social system in which personal freedom, right of education, independent business operation, and private ownership property are not recognized. So what is the intention of it? Everyone gets an equal share or rewards of labor which is controlled by the government. So at least now we have someone gives money. But it's still in the hands of government. What happened in Russia after that? What went wrong? Well, Lenin died in 1924. And here we have two persons who are battling. They won the throne. Someone is called Trotsky, and he is a revolutionary and intellectual guy. And someone is called Joseph Stalin. Here's Joseph and here's Trotsky. But in fact, Trotsky was exiled and he was murdered. So who won? Of course, it is this guy who's called Stalin. Now, we will think that country went better and the situation went better, but in fact it went worse and worse. We got back from being good with Lenin and giving people some money to the, as we say, to the tutorialism, the definition that I gave you before. So the king was controlling everywhere, everything, whether it was media, politics, economic. He was controlling the people, and in fact, at the time of Stalin, millions of people died. So this shows us how bad guy he is. Now, how this affected George Orwell and making the Animal Farm? Now, George Orwell was a socialist and he had socialist ideas. He advocated equality among the working class. He was disgusted by Stalin regime because Stalin manipulated socialist ideas that Orwell used to support. Now, Orwell, of course, he was with communism, he was with giving people some money, he was kind of good, but in fact, Stalin was not like that. He made the country go in a more bloody way. Yeah. So, Orwell wrote Animal Farm to attack Stalinism. So that's why the Animal Farm was like a smackdown to the Stalinism and to the dictatorship regime at that time. So, let's say that traditionally fable is set in unspecific place and time, or we'll use this principle in Animal Farm, and we can say that this novel is not like yeah, we can, of course it's an allegory, but it's not specifically to be for the Russian regime, but we can say it's an allegory for all the countries who suffer from dictatorship, who suffer from poverty, and who suffer from death, lots of death, and so on. So, yep. See you later. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.